Today, I want to talk a little bit about how I got an agent because, as most writers know, it's a really difficult thing to do. And I've now done it on two separate occasions. And both times it kind of happened in a similar way. And it's not the way that you normally get told about these things and the way you normally get told to do it. So I want to talk a little bit about that so it might help any aspiring writers. And I want to mention that the first time I got an agent, it didn't go so well, and the second time I got an agent, now it's going well, and there is a book, there are publishing deals that have been signed, and it will be getting published in 2026. The first time when it went wrong, it wasn't the agent's fault; it was the book's fault essentially. So my fault, and I'm not going to get too much into that, but I do want to talk about how I got the agent each time, and it was a different agent each time. So they were both through competitions. Um, so the first one was a competition. I don't even know what year it was. It must have been like maybe 2018, maybe 2017. There's this festival that gets run every year called the Festival of Writing, and they always do a few competitions. And there were two main competitions: Best Opening Chapter and Best 500 Words. And I entered both, and I got shortlisted, I believe, for both. I definitely got shortlisted for 500 Words. I might have been longlisted for Best Opening Chapter. So because I got shortlisted for Best 500 Words, I had to go on stage and read out these 500 words with like 7 other people who got shortlisted in front of a panel of judges who were literary agents. I didn't win the competition, but I emailed one of the agents on like the Monday and just said, I don't know if you remember me, I was one of the finalists. I read out my work. Do you want to see the rest of it? And she said yes. And it went from there. I went to London, had one of the best days of my life speaking to this agent, very cool person. We spoke loads about the book. She bought me some books and she eventually became my agent. That all went wrong because she sort of discovered that the book probably wasn't ready to be published yet, and I wasn't a good enough writer to fix it. I didn't know enough about storytelling. I just couldn't get it to the point where it needed to be. And that sort of all fell through, which was really difficult. In hindsight, it was absolutely the best thing that could have happened. It had to happen. The book was not good enough. I wasn't ready. So although it was really difficult to accept at the time, it was absolutely the best thing that could have happened. The second time I got an agent, I wrote a book in 2023. I submitted it to a competition called the Bath Novel Award at the start of 2024, and won the Bath Novel Award at roughly the end of 2024. Got my new agent because of that, because the person who ran the competition got in touch with some agents to see if any of them would be interested in publishing my book, and one of them really was. And then we got publishing deals in the start of 2025 and so on. So both were from a competition. Now I don't hear a lot of talk about that sort of thing when you're looking for an agent. Normally it's you just submit to the slush pile and that's it. You just kind of wait. Now there is a thing called survivorship bias, which is that the people who survive or succeed at something tend to think that the way they did it must be the best and possibly only way of doing it because they succeeded or survived. I don't think that. I don't think it's the only way of doing it. All I can say is for me personally, I've submitted to hundreds of agents the normal way. Not hundreds of agents, but I've submitted hundreds of times for different books in total to agents over the years. A few requests to see more that never really led anywhere. And I've only probably entered maybe, I want to say 10 competitions, and I was like longlisted for another one, the Cheshire Novel Prize. There was one recently that was like best pitch. You had to do an elevator pitch. You had to sum up your thing in like your book in like 20 words. I got shortlisted for that. Had to read it out, and then my webcam wasn't working, so it was really embarrassing. My name came up and I couldn't do anything. So out of like 10 competitions that I've entered, probably like 4 of them led to something. That's 40%, which is mad. Let's say I've entered 20 competitions, which I definitely haven't. 2 of them resulted in me getting an agent, which is 10%, which is like 1 in 10 is mad, considering we normally get told figures like it's 1 in 1,000 that you're going to find an agent, because they're all getting thousands of entries, thousands of submissions, and obviously you can write multiple books, you can try again and again, you can submit to multiple agents and so on. So I don't think it is 1 in 1,000, but still, if I'd entered 20 competitions, which I definitely haven't, to get 2 agents, I think is like a decent success rate. Now, I want to talk about why I think a competition is a good route. And that's because I think there's a different dynamic going on to when you submit to an agent. When you submit to an agent, understandably, they've got loads to do. Their job is not just to read new submissions, it's to look after their existing clients and deal with contracts and all this stuff. So they literally call it the slush pile, don't they? The pile of submissions that come in. So I think that sort of shines a light on how this pile of submissions is perceived. It's the slush pile, and you can quite easily imagine that an agent would be really, really busy. They're like, "Oh, I guess I could have a quick look in the slush pile, see what's going on, see if anything stands out. Quick read through, maybe a couple of sentences of each. No, it's not for me," and chuck it in the bin and move on. Whereas a competition, and I could be wrong about all this. This is just from my own personal what's happened. They kind of want to read every single entry because someone has submitted to that competition. They want to find the winner. They want to find the best one. So they have to read every one. And especially sometimes you have to pay to enter a competition. And it's normally like the price of like 3 new books or something like that. And they want to find the best one. They want to find a book that's going to be published because that makes the prize more prestigious. And it is, the Bath Novel Award is pretty prestigious. Like, it's been going for years. The judge is always a real literary agent. And I should say that the judge who picked mine as the winner isn't my agent. A different agent ended up becoming my agent. They want to find a book that's going to be published so that they can say, well, partly because they're kind people and they want to see people do well, but also they want to say, right, the people that win this competition end up getting published, which is awesome and makes sense. So they really want to read every single entry. And this was a paid for competition. And I think I submitted on the first day, and they get thousands of entries, literally thousands. But I submitted on the first day. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in the inbox. I wanted people to see it. And yeah, I ended up winning, and that was amazing. I remember the day getting the email of the announcement of who the winner was. I had to click through to a link to get to the website, scrolled down, saw my name, saw my book's name, and I'd cried, and I just couldn't believe it. Everything felt a bit different after that. But what I'm trying to say is, with a competition, if you can write a really good book, and that's a big part of it. No one's gonna get published unless they write a really good book. Well, that's not true, but it's a lot easier if you can write a good book. You're naturally going, again, survivorship bias, but you are naturally going to rise up through the submission pile because, especially in a competition, people are looking for that best entry, the winning entry. So if you write something good, they've almost got no choice but to pick yours. And this is going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but one thing that I really have always strived to do, a lot of writers, they just want to write a really good story, really compelling story with good characters, and that's awesome. I think you should want that as a writer. But I've also wanted something slightly different, which is I want to write a book that really resonates deeply with people. Some people don't want that. That's absolutely fine. Some people just want to write a really cool story with cool characters. Amazing. But because I wanted that, I think that helps stick in people's minds a bit more. It helps you rise up the submission pile a little bit, because that was my goal, to really resonate deeply on a psychological level with people, with my story. And I think no matter what genre you're writing in, you can do that. So what I'm trying to say is, I think that you should, if you can afford it, enter paid competitions. And if you can't afford it, just enter writing competitions in general. write a really good book and submit it to these competitions, because you might start gaining a bit of interest and a bit of people literally seeing your work and reading it because they want to find the best work, as opposed to just sending it to still send it to agents, but as opposed to just sending it to them and not entering a competition, and you're just lost amongst that slush pile and nothing happens because it's sort of a burden that someone's got to read through as quick as they can, just to maybe try and find something good. Again, I don't know if that's the way it works. Maybe some people love their slush pile and they really, really spend time over it and really, really read each submission and try and find the best one, like a competition. But it doesn't necessarily seem that way. Enter competitions if you can. It's a different avenue to get in. It's worked for me twice, and I really hope it works for you. So I'm going to have more news about my book soon. That's going to be published in 2026. The other thing I want to say is this YouTube channel is very, very small. I stopped doing it because it wasn't getting any bigger and I wanted to focus on my writing. And that has worked out well because I'm now going to be published. So I'm going to maybe try and do a few more videos. I'm always happy to answer questions. If anybody's got questions about writing or getting published, I'd absolutely love to answer them. I want to help people. I want to keep writing alive, or help keep writing alive and keep literature alive. So yeah, I hope this helps you in some way. I hope this helps a writer get published. And yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.